Welcome everybody then. So straight to the requirement, assess the ethical and professional issues raised by the request for your firm to investigate fraud. Okay, I think we could straight away, we haven't seen this yet on the course, but you know in the future when we come to see it. But if you're investigating fraud, this is actually what we call a forensic investigation. You don't need to know that just yet. But the issue is, it's not an audit, okay? So that's all we really need to know here. It's a non-audit service. And if we're providing a non-audit service, then immediately for me, what I mentioned in the exam is, you would ask yourselves, do we have the skills? Do we have the experience? Could we train anybody in time to do this? If we can't, then we're not going to accept this request. If it's a non-audit service, we want to know, do we have the resources? Because it will be an extra job. Will we have a fraudulent activity? I'm guessing we'll need some senior staff involved as well. Can we take them off other jobs? Even though I'm writing it out like this, I want you to write this out in full sentences. So what I'm saying, I want you to write out as well in the real exam. And finally, if it's to do with fraud, we want to make sure that all our staff are aware of any confidentiality issues, because it's a very sensitive subject, isn't it? Okay, so they're the three things I always mention with non-audit service. And then the other key one is, if I'm providing a non-audit service, can I still be the auditor? Am I still independent enough? And independence comes from basically the threats to independence. So, will there be too much self-review? Will there be too much self-interest? Would there be too much, catch up with myself, would there be too much of an advocacy threat? Okay, and that's what the scenario is about to go tell us. So let's have a little read through then. We're an audit manager in Cedar, responsible for auditing Chestnut. Chestnut's a large company which provides IT services to business customers, and the finance director, Jack Privited, contacted us this morning. He said, I was alerted to a fraud being conducted by members of our sales team. It appears that several sales representatives have been claiming reimbursement for fictitious travel and client entertainment expenses and inflating actual expenses incurred. Specifically, it's been alleged that the sales representatives have claimed on expenses for items such as gifts for clients and office supplies which weren't actually ever purchased, claiming for business class airline tickets but had actually purchased economy tickets, claimed for non-existent business mileage and used a company credit card to purchase items for personal use. I'm very worried about the scale of this fraud, as travel and client entertainment is one of our biggest expenses. All of the alleged fraudsters have been suspended, which I would like your firm to conduct, pending an investigation, which I'd like your firm to conduct. We will prosecute these employees to attempt to recoup our losses if evidence shows that a fraud has indeed incurred. So your firm would need to provide an expert witness in the event of a court case. Can we tomorrow meet to discuss this potential assignment? Chestnut, that's the company that we're auditing, has a small internal audit department, and in previous years the evidence obtained by us as part of the external auditor has indicated the control environment is generally good. The audit opinion for March 11 was unmodified. So we've already done the audit, and now we're being asked to do this investigation. So self-review, hopefully you can see what we should do. We should have given reasonable assurance that there's no material misstatements in the financial statements caused by fraud. So the first thing we need to do is check, is this a material amount? If it is a material amount, then I will be investigating an effect on the financial statements that we missed. So therefore, how independent will I be? Not very. Big self-review threats. Also, the examiner talked, the scenario talked about the external audit has indicated that control of the company, control environment is generally good. Okay, so controls have been, well, they've either been not working properly or being circumvented somehow, and we've already said that there's good controls. Okay, so when we did the audit, we already said good controls. So again, we will be investigating something that we'd missed. So there's a couple of self-review threats. What about a self-interest threat then? What would we be interested in? Put yourself in the shoes of the auditing firm. We've just got a phone call saying we want you to do something. The first thing that comes into your head, lovely, there's more money for me. So the self-interest threat is, how much will this be? Will this be so big, added on to the audit job, that it becomes a big self-interest threat? Advocacy threats, well, I think he actually mentioned it, didn't he, in the scenario. You will need to become an expert witness on behalf of the client. So, expert witness. If you're an expert witness, you'll be seen as promoting client interests. And that's what we can't be seen to do. Promoting the client interests, okay? So they're all the threats. Now, because we've got these threats, we've got to decide, can we take it on or not? You know, so just to go to the question again, assess the ethical and professional issues. Well, that's what I'm doing. So now I've got to evaluate all these threats, evaluate their significance. And the things that will make it significant or not, well, the amounts involved. You know, particularly if it's material, I should have picked it up. Okay, so the amounts involved. And the other thing would be the degree of judgment involved. And let's be honest, the degree of judgment will actually be small, I would have thought. We just see whether it happened or not. But if those were high, then we would have to reject the forensic investigation. But let's say that they're not high, and I don't think the degree of judgment is very high, so if they're not high, then we will have to put in safeguards to allow us to do the job. And one of the obvious safeguards would be different FI team, forensic investigation team, to those involved in the audit, those who were involved in the audit. Get a second partner review. I think that would be a good safeguard. And also, what we'd have to do is discuss with those charged with governance that we're thinking of taking this on and that we've looked at the ethics, but make them aware, okay? So that's pretty much how we'd answer part A then for 6 marks. Let's go and have a look at part B. Explain the matters that you discuss in your meeting with Jack Privet when we're coming to plan the investigation. So put your business head on. What do you want to know about planning this investigation? Okay, 3 things. I think you want to know the purpose. Why am I doing it? Why are you asking me? Give me some more information about its nature. How big a job is this? Okay, so the purpose would be things like, I don't know, I guess you want to make sure, is the job for me to identify the fraudsters? And I guess the other one would be to identify the amounts involved. You want to know that. You will put all of this, of course, in an engagement letter. Let's get the contract sorted out at the start. Let's see exactly what it is I have to do. And then the nature and scope, I think, what we're talking about here is, you want to know about the time scale, don't you? You want to know about the work involved, the deadlines. Why do you want to know about those? Because we want to know, have we got the resources? Can we take people off things to put them on? How quickly is this needed? You might want to ask how many sales reps have been suspended. Because if it's a lot, then it's a big job. So you want to know about that for the size of the job, the scope of the job. You might want to ask him, how was it uncovered? Because if you know how it is uncovered, you then know you can go and who to interview. What else might we want to know? Getting a bit stuck here, so let's have another look at the scenario. What else we might want to find out. Here, look. Chestnut has a small internal audit department. Do they now? They provided evidence for us before. Why is he telling me that? What one thing might I ask? Can we use your internal audit department? Is that possible? Going back and having a look here. This talk again about this control environment. You might want to know if why did the internal controls not work? Because we think they're good. So one of the things you might want to ask is, Paddy, why are they not good? And therefore, do you want recommendations on improvement as well? We're trying to work out what job do you want me to do. Okay, and then finally, I think because it's an investigation, you want permission, I guess. You want permission to access everything, and also permission to speak to not only to everybody involved, but to also perhaps the police, to lawyers, because you've got that confidentiality issue as well going on. But they're the sort of things that you want to get in your head before plan the purpose, nature and scope. That's what you want to always be thinking about, and I've just used the scenario for it. Okay, so there you go. There's the 12 marks. Hope it helps.